It's Debra Poneman, founder of Yes to Success Seminars, where we share knowledge and tools for you to live your ultimate life. Ageless, anti-aging for your brain, body, and future, and the Awake Method, because it's time for all of us to wake up. So the other night I was listening to a talk by the great teacher and healer from Australia, Master John Douglas. To me, he's one of the wisest and most powerful teachers and healers on our planet today. And he was talking about kindness. And the first thing I wrote down from his talk was, and it's a quote, he said, being a giver is one of the most important things you can do to mitigate your karma. Well, I thought that was quite a powerful statement from a man who sees beyond the ordinary, that being a giver is one of the most important things you can do to lessen or alleviate your karma from the past. So that was really exciting to me. I thought, wow, no matter how gnarly your karma is from the past, you now have a way that you can undo the knots. And then he used the example of the tithe, and he said, like when you tithe, people think, I'll test this out and I'll give 10% and see if my finances improve. And then he said, that is not the attitude you want to be giving with. We give for the pure joy of giving, not to see what we'll get back. But he added that we will eventually get back, but we need to be patient. We need to have faith that no act of kindness or love is ever wasted. And then his last sentence that he kind of said under his breath, so I think most of the people in the room might have even missed it. He said, and I wrote it down so I get it really clear. Uh, what I've seen is that most people stop giving just before they get the rewards, and they miss the magic karmic recalculation moment. The magic karmic recalculation moment. Think about that. I mean, there isn't a scripture that doesn't say some rendition of as you sow, so shall you reap. We know that the giver always gets more than the receiver, but did you ever think that you might give up on giving, give up on kindness, give up on flowing love a moment too soon, just before the karmic recalculation moment? So I want to tell you a story, and this is a story about one of my favorite givers, and his name is Daniel, and he happens to be my son. Now, ever since Daniel was a little guy, he was a natural giver. He and besides being a natural giver, he always loved basketball, and he was firmly entrenched in the basketball world in Chicago from the time he played on the small fry league in grammar school. Well, one day when Daniel was a freshman in high school, he was asked by a gentleman that was at least 3 times his age, if he would recruit players for the man's for-profit high school basketball player showcase. Showcases are when players play against one another in a round robin, and college scouts come and watch them. Now, the price tag to be in one of these showcases was several $100s. And this didn't seem like a huge price for the potential to be seen by a college coach and hopefully be offered a life changing scholarship. But Daniel, as he began trying to recruit for this gentleman, soon discovered that most of the potential showcase participants he contacted in Chicago didn't have a couple $100s. In fact, many didn't even have the money for the bus fare to get to the showcase, which is being held in a far northern suburb. So Daniel asked the organizer if he could reduce the price for the kids with the greatest need. And the answer he received from the man was an absolute no way. That moment was the catalyst for the formation of Daniel's nonprofit, Shot in the Dark Foundation, now called Edify, which he founded at the ripe age of 15 to put on free basketball showcases for kids in the more challenged neighborhoods of Chicago. His plan was that he would solicit donations from donors, mostly friends of mine and his father, until he had enough to pay for the thousands of dollars of expenses for a showcase, which included renting the gyms, paying the refs, triage people, jerseys for the players, getting the rosters assembled and printed, lunch for the players, sports drinks. But his vision was that any player would be invited to be in the showcase no matter what their financial status, and thus have a chance to be seen by college coaches and potentially get a scholarship and an opportunity for a radically different life. Well, Daniel's first showcase, by the way, we thought it was a great idea. Were never the discouragement committee for either of our children. If they had a dream, well, the creator whispered that dream into their ear. So who are we to tell them that their dream wasn't going to work? So Daniel's first showcase had about 20 coaches and 50 players. It was very successful. His next one had about 50 coaches and 100 players. And his most recent one before COVID, the last one I was at before I moved, had about 150 coaches and more than 350 players. They had to rent a facility that had 4 different gyms. And to date, his foundation has generated over $70 million dollars in college scholarships for kids in the Chicago area. So you ask, what does this have to do with mitigating your karma? Well, one day after a very successful showcase, probably the third or fourth year he was putting them on, and this one was clearly going to generate millions in scholarship dollars for the kids in attendance. I finally asked Daniel, who never took a penny, if there were a way that he could maybe make some money for himself. To which he replied, Mom, just be patient. I'm building relationship capital. Now that sounded like a good idea, so I let it go for a while. And as time went on, and I watched as he helped player after player get 6-figure scholarships, well, after a while, it again became difficult for me to be patient. I love what he was doing. I was immensely proud of him. But given the long hours he spent day in and day out, and by now he had actually dropped out of high school in his senior year to work full time on his nonprofit, his reasoning was, Mom, I can't sit in a classroom learning calculus and physics and stuff I'm never going to use when I could be helping to change thousands of lives. So he didn't get an argument from me. But again, after a couple years, I had to broach the subject of Daniel. There must be some way for you to make money for yourself in this endeavor. His reply was an even more emphatic, Mom, I'm not doing this to make money. I'm doing this because I want to see these players succeed. Just trust me. I promise you I'll end up getting more back than money. And anyway, I don't want to break any NCAA rules by taking payment for my scouting, so just hang in there. And hang in I did. And within a short time, NBA players looking for a way to give back to their communities began supporting Daniel's showcases, with the NBA itself giving matching funds. Shoe companies and apparel companies with household names became sponsors. And when Daniel decided that he wanted to make a documentary on high school basketball in the inner city and how it's the only way out for many of these kids, someone with whom Daniel had built relationship capital invested hundreds of thousands of dollars to cover the cost of production. Eventually, the film was bought by Fox Magnify and nominated for an Emmy. And the story continues. Daniel's nonprofit, now managed by a team of devoted Chicagoans, left Daniel free to start his own sports management firm. The investor in this new firm was, you guessed it, someone with whom Daniel had built relationship capital. And one day, as I was marveling on how vast his influence had become in the world of basketball, at this point, everyone wanted to be a part of Team Daniel. He was even named as one of the top 100 most impactful figures in men's college basketball, alongside people like Rick Pitino and Dick Vitale and Mike Krzyzewski. So I complimented him and I said, thank you, Daniel, for teaching me about relationship capital. You were absolutely right. Building it really pays off in the end. It's a brilliant concept. And he looked at me and said, Mom, why are you thanking me? I learned it from you. You did? Yeah. You taught me that giving is its own reward, and we give for the sake of giving and not to expect a thank you or anything in return. You said that we don't give to be appreciated or acknowledged or recognized. You used to say that the sun doesn't give light to be thanked, it gives light because that's what the sun was created to do. And remember, Mom, you always told me not to give up before that magic karmic mitigation moment. Well, I guess I did. You know, so many people give so that they can buy a person's loyalty or their favor, or they donate so that their names go on a plaque, or they can tell everyone how they belong to this or that society or organization of givers. And everyone is like, oh, wow, you're so amazing. And that's too bad because there's a powerful quote from the Old Testament, and it goes like this: Do not your alms before men to be seen of them. Otherwise, you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. So when you do your alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, so that they may have the praise of men. Truly, I say to you, then they have their reward in full. But when you give, do not let your left hand know what your right hand doeth, and then you will have your reward from your Father who is in heaven. In other words, when you give, whether it's a tithe or a random act of kindness, don't do it for the recognition. Just keep doing those acts of kindness or charity selflessly without a thought of return. Don't keep score, because if you give just for the pure joy of giving, then you'll be building relationship capital where it is most important, and that is with spirit, source, the universe, the God of your understanding. And one day you will have that karmic recalculation moment, that watershed moment when the good you do tips the scales and life gives you the most precious of all rewards, an abundance of divine grace. So thanks for listening. Have fun creating relationship capital and enjoy the rich life that's waiting for you on the other side of that moment. Just don't even think of giving up. Trust me on this one. And I send you lots and lots of love.